Hi, I'm Demetriana O'Frey from the Nonprofit VA. I offer virtual assistant services to nonprofits and socially responsible businesses so we can work together to make the world a better place. And so today I'm doing part 3 of the video series I started, which is called What to Do Before Starting Grant Research. And if any of you would like to view parts 1 and 2, you can go to my Instagram, Facebook, or my website, thenonprofitva.com, so you can catch up with those videos. And you can use whichever platform you're most comfortable with. So to provide a brief recap of what I've talked about so far. In part 1, I did a brief introduction talking about my reasons for starting this series. And then part 2, I went into talking about how the importance of developing a needs statement and the components of a needs statement being the problem section and the solution section. And then I went deeper and talked about different questions that would be good to answer when developing the problem section of the needs statement. So today, I'll be talking about data sources that would be good to use when putting together the problem section of your needs statement. So I know data could be a scary word or concept to a lot of people, but honestly, really it's good to view it as a tool that can be used in addition to all the personal stories that you've collected from your clients or community members that you're already serving or have served, to really paint a good picture for the grant maker, to let them know why they would be a great partner with your organization to help solve this problem and need, because they'll not only see that there are people in your community talking about it, but they'll also see that there are research studies to support your argument, and that there are data and demographics to show it as well. And so, data and the stories, the personal stories from people will really paint that picture and really engage the grant maker in seeing how they can be a great partner with your organization to address this problem or need. And so I'll be talking a bit more about data sources today. So one of the questions I brought up last week for the problem section is, what is the problem and who believes this is a problem? It's like a part A, part B thing. So a great data source you can use to answer this question would be surveys and or focus groups. And so these data collection methods are great when it comes to connecting with your community and really assessing what their needs are and figuring out what they prioritize and what they want to see addressed. And so one thing you should do first is to see if there are other nonprofits, or maybe if your city or county has already done some work in getting surveys and focus group results done, so that you don't have to do that again if you don't need to. But that would only probably be best if that information is maybe 1, maybe 2 years old, because the community needs and priorities may still be relevant. But if the survey and focus group data is, a couple of years old, 3, 4, 5+ years old, it would be time to do a follow-up survey or focus group. And so that's something to consider. The second thing to think about is if your organization needs to do a follow-up, or maybe there are surveys or focus groups that have been done to assess the needs and the priorities of your community, then you would need to figure out with your board and your staff whether a survey or a focus group would be a more feasible data collection method, because both of them have their pros and cons. They both require different resources, so it would be good to sit down and really figure out what you all want to do. The second question I brought up last week is, who is in need and where are they located? So this is referring to the target population. So a great data source you can use to find information about your target population would be, public databases. So whether you're looking at U.S. Census data, or maybe you can look into your city, county, or state department websites to see what type of reports they have done on the demographics in your community. And so that would be a great place to really, paint a picture, a profile of your target population. Another thing to consider is to put together, but to really illustrate a comparison. So it's important to not only present data from your city, but it's also good to present data on a higher level, whether it's the county, the state, or if it's relevant, the country. So for example, I use the illustration of middle school students and their academic performance going down as an illustration. So basically, it's not only important to talk about the academic performance of middle school students in your city school district, but it's also good to paint a picture of what it looks like nationally or in the state, because the grant maker would like to see, how if there's a trend going on in the country, how does that compare to your city or your county or your region? So that would be important illustration to have in your need statement for your proposal. The other question I brought up last week was, what factors contribute to the problem? And so this is dealing more with like the social sciences aspect, the more broader sense of the problem. And so this is where it would be good to look for research studies and journal articles to really illustrate the factors that are associated with the problem. And so a great resource to use to find these articles and studies is to go to your local library. Because if you do an internet search through either Google Scholar or some other browser or database on your own, you'll be likely to have to pay for a subscription or to pay to have access to that article. And so if you go to your local library, then you'll be able to have access to databases where you'll be able to look up those articles for free. And another thing to think about is to talk to, your colleagues, anybody in your network that may have gone to college or graduate school or are currently in those institutions, and they can help you navigate the research process, because this may be an area that you're not totally familiar with. And so it would be good to utilize your network to help you really navigate this research. And, you don't need to go overboard with this. Find, 2, maybe 3 studies that you believe would be really relevant to your problem. The next question I brought up last week is, what would happen if the problem isn't addressed now? And so a data source you can use for that would be, again, studies, journal articles, because in the social sciences, it's very likely that there have already been studies to show what kind of long-term consequences could occur that if this particular problem isn't solved. So for middle school student academic performance, if resources are provided for them in middle school, it's likely that their high school performance will be affected, and then that would in turn affect their college, college aspirations and all of that. So it would be good to look for studies that look at those things. And the last question I brought up last week is, what are the gaps in the solutions to this problem in your community? And so surveys and focus groups would be another great data source to answer this question, because you would not only be able to find out what your community's priorities and needs are, but it would also be good to follow up and ask them if there are any gaps. Are there currently programs that are available? If there are, do you have access? Is finances a barrier? Is time a barrier? Is location a barrier? And it would also be good to find out, maybe there are programs that are addressing a problem, but maybe there's another factor associated with this problem that certain organizations aren't addressing. So it would be good to also find out if there are gaps that way. So surveys and focus groups would be beneficial to answer this question as well. Well, this concludes today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If any of you will have any questions or like to provide some positive feedback or some constructive criticism, I would greatly appreciate it. You can email me at thenonprofitva@gmail.com. I've already gotten some positive feedback about the series so far, but I would love to hear more from you. And if any of you would like to learn more about the virtual assistant services I offer, you can visit my website at thenonprofitva.com. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed week, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. Bye.